This week on Extracts, slow crew, black goo, don't tell baby what to do.
It's the Baby Does the Thing episode. Welcome to Extracts, a podcast where we introduce each other to our fandoms one episode at a time. I'm your host, Erin Cline, an X-Files spooky bitch.
And I'm your other host, Stella Cheeks, a slut for Star Trek the original series. Each podcast, we pick 2 episodes that fit a cinematic theme, watch them together, and then record our feelings.
Our theme this week is Baby Does the Thing.
Okay, this theme is a stretch. I'm going to admit that right off the bat. The episode we watched is season 3's A Wink of an Eye, which I spelled with an I and not like A-I-E-Y-E. I wrote this at 7 o'clock in the morning. Anyways, which is just such a mid-episode that I really struggled to pick a theme for this one. But then there's that one scene that really reminded me of that Mulder meme. So I was like, Erin, why don't we do Baby Does the Thing as a theme? And alas, here we are. It's a pretty skippable episode and suffers from some season 3 drudgery, but there are some A-plus moments that make it worth it. The hallway scene, it literally makes me tear up. Like, I did cry watching it. I am very weak. Anyways, aliens are super fast and they want to steal your sperm, so watch out, I guess.
Fuck you. I'll just lead into that. Okay, no problem. Easy jump. And for the X-Files, we watched season 8's episode 18, Vienen. And for all of you out there who are like, what the fuck episode is that? It's the episode where Mulder baby does the things so hard that he follows John Doggett to an oil platform in the ocean, presumably on his own dime, without his permission or telling him at all, obviously. And they both almost die in an explosion just so Mulder can make sure that he is the most Mulder of all of the Mulders. And in this episode, he is finally fired from the FBI. The most Baby Does the Thing fucking possible.
Headcanon, he stole Skinner's credit card to pay for those flights. Skinner gets his bill and goes, what the fuck?
No, you know Skinner knows. Skinner's like, just use this card. Yeah. I will pay for it.
Better headcanon. Mulder thinks he stole Skinner's card, but it's actually the credit card he saves for Mulder and his bullshit.
He's like, actually, this is just an expense account, but I had to hide it in my wallet and let him steal it so that he thinks he's not doing it correctly.
Yeah, because he, wouldn't do it unless he thinks he's breaking the rules.
It's my idea, Dad! Anyway, are you ready for Ticket in there, Mr. Spock?
Mm-hmm. Sure am. More like...
It's you.
It's you. Oh, no words. We're the best. Kiss in the hallway? No. Fight. We'll kiss later. Anyways.
Instrument readings indicate life form, but of a highly unusual and intermittent nature. They have no discernible form or location.
And now for a quick-ish episode summary. The Enterprise is once again answering a distress call to a seemingly barren planet. The landing party can't figure out where everyone is because while Uhura is still receiving a seemingly current distress call, there is no one around, not even vegetation or insects, despite that consistent buzzing heard by the captain. Before they can figure anything out, crewman Compton disappears right before their eyes. Kirk orders the remaining crew to be beamed back, but upon their return, the Enterprise begins to experience strange malfunctions, along with that pesky buzzing sound. Engineering reports the sudden appearance of an unknown device attached to the ship's life support system. Spock and Kirk attempt to disconnect the device, but are prevented by an unseen force. Kirk understands this as a show of power by their unseen invaders and decides to consult the computer for possible counteractions. But first, coffee. Kirk is feeling better, sipping his faithful coffee, but oh no, everyone is being so weird and slow. And oh shit, there's a beautiful lady on the bridge. He asks her, hey, what gives? But she just kisses him right on the mouth, which he is shockingly like, no, don't like that, because this woman messed up. You can't mess with the Enterprise and Spock and expect me to be chill about it. She introduces herself as Dila, the enemy, which is honestly not doing anything for her cause.
I'm the enemy.
But look at my hair or whatever. She explains to Kirk that he's been placed in a state of hyperacceleration, rendering him invisible to the rest of the crew, because you see, she's the queen and he's going to be her king. Kirk the royal consort, baby! Except for Kirk's not pleased, but he's like, okay, if I agree to be your sex slave or whatever, will you let the Enterprise go? And she's like, nah, we're going to put them in suspended animation. And he's like, well, I tried. I'm going to go fuck some shit up. But unfortunately, he's stopped in his quest to stop the threat by crewman Compton, who is super speedy like him, but Compton is less drunk and fights his captain, who then gets dramatically stunned by Rael, this other guy, who then hits Compton, cutting him in the process, which sucks for crewman Compton because it turns out if you get hurt when you're real fast, you die real fast. No real fast sex for you. Kirk wakes up and is real pissed. He's fast and his crewman is dead, and there is still that damn thing on his ship. Rael and Dila, who have truly weird Romulan twincest vibes, so not great, are don't touch that. And Kirk is I'ma touch it. But he is shocked. But you know what might work if I touch it with my whole hands? Turns out it doesn't work, and his hands are numb because the device is slowly turning the Enterprise into a deep freeze or whatever science. Well, Kirk is what?
Is that how he figured that out?
I think so. I don't know, because she's your hands are numb, and then he's we're freezing. I don't know. The science in this episode is bad. Kirk is all, why are you doing this to us? And Dila is because we're barren and I need your sperm. And Kirk is so ethically, this is really bad, right? And Dila is but our survival, blah, 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 blah. And Kirk is oh, but did you do science about it? And she's But Dila is I'm done, so let's leave. But sucks to be her because Kirk has fucked up that transporter. Oh no, better have sex about it. Kirk is all complacent after having sex, and Dila's sad because she misses her big, strong man. But whoopsie, she should have known this was a trick because he betrays her and steals her phaser. Sex magic works every time! Meanwhile, Spock has figured out what's going on here and has conscripted Bones into making a medical, let's call it an elixir, that will speed Spock up too. Bones is might not work, sure you want to drink it? And Spock does the try me bitch eyebrow and takes a shot like he's a sorority girl ready to party, and by party I mean rescue Kirk. Kirk runs past Spock in the hallway, realizes he's hyper-accelerated too, smiles, says nothing, and then boom, they're on the same page and I am feeling feelings. Spock and Kirk immediately knock out that bitch Rael and take out the machine, saving the day. Then they send the Scalosians back to their planet to die or whatever. Then Kirk takes the antidote shot like a bachelorette, realizing she's making a mistake, and returns to regular speed. Spock fixes the whole ship in a wink of an eye. Space flirting! Spelled I right that time. Anyways, my summary is 16 times more exciting than the actual episode. What did you think of this episode? You cracking up, Bobby, unfazed. Doesn't care. Not funny. Erin, dead.
Yeah, because you wrote that summary for me. Get out of here.
I write all of these summaries for you.
That's true. Oh my god. This episode's weird.
Yeah.
It's super weird. It's weird, I don't want to say I like the, hyper-accelerated sexual assault that's happening.
Yeah, because she, while she's, a buzzy fly or whatever, she kisses him on the mouth, and he, keeps touching his face, and is he literally asked Bones, do you think I'm going crazy?
I really liked that. I really liked that scene, and I like that it shows how much he trusts Bones, that he's I'm your captain, and you're the only person who can, medically unclear me, and I'm going to honestly talk to you about the fact that I think I'm hallucinating. I think is awesome, and I think it's a very, it's an interesting window into their relationship, and I think it was a cool scene, and probably not for the reasons they were intending, but I really liked that.
And it's huge growth, too, because we are in season 3, and there are other times when Bones is hey, you're being cuckoo and you're sick and I have to take you off duty. And Kirk's Marrah!
Yeah, and I like too, I made a note of it that when Bones talks to him, he's oh, I have some things that I might think about this. And Kirk's all right, cool, tell me about it. And he says, I'd rather talk to you about it in person. And then they're in the medical bay and he's calmly getting the exam. And it was oh, Bones is saying this because he knows if I say you need to come have your medical exam, Kirk will be a pissy little bitch about it.
But also in front of the crew.
Right, exactly. And so I like that there's this, adjacent language that's happening. They know
each other really well.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. And I like that it's just a part of this episode that it seems like their relationships are so intimate that they're casual. And, there's that moment in the hall, you're talking about, and I'm sure we will talk extensively about, that, they don't need to speak to each other because we as the audience already know that their relationship is elevated to a point where they don't need to have that kind of communication verbally. So I like this episode as a capsule for that.
It's a good Mick Kirk episode in general. There are good interactions between all of them in all of the ways. It is a terrible episode plot-wise, But for, like, if you are a Spurk shipper, if you're a Spone shipper, if you're a McCark shipper, if you're a Triumvirate shipper, it is, like, a good, like, oh, their relationship is established. And even if you're just like, oh, they're bros or whatever, it's still a really good relationship episode.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked the introduction of the people disappearing. I liked the explanation of that, even if it was sort of weird and inconsistent. All right, I asked this when we were watching the episode, but like, okay, so is the idea that... So she said, I can kiss you, so she can interact with his body. If they had an erection, could she have sex with him? Is their sperm too slow? I, like, don't understand.
See, that's the thing. The science falls apart completely because, like...
So it hasn't been, like, extrapolated by, like, a James Blish or anything. Okay.
If these people are moving so fast that they have to convert parts of the ship to whatever, or convert the people to be hyper-accelerated, how can they interact with certain things without breaking them? How can you kiss somebody without, like, giving them
shattering their face?
Right, road rash or something, or shattering their face, or if they're moving... I read somewhere, and I don't know, you can go to Wikipedia or whatever to find the actual source, but one scientist was like, if you are standing still, even if you were going at hyperspeed, you could still be seen. Like there's so much, like, bad science by it, and also, like, yeah, okay, it's science fiction, it's fake science, we don't need it to be real, but even from a plot point, it's just like, what's the fucking point? Yeah. Right? Honestly, too, you could have been like, hey, figure out how to communicate or whatever, and be like, hi, our society's dying. We can't really figure out how to slow down, but, like, could we get some, like, sperm donors or whatever?
Yeah.
Unless it's a thing where, like you said, they have to be, like, real fast sperm. But even if that's the case, they have the technology to speed up. They don't have, the Scalosians don't have the technology to slow down, even though Spock and McCoy figured out. And
immediately.
I presumably never give it to them.
Yes.
It definitely seems like they just send them to that planet to die.
Is that Prime Directive? Would it be Prime Directive to just leave them to that?
They're
endangered? Okay.
They're advanced enough. Prime Directive is you can't interact with the society in a way that could change the formation of the society if it's at certain levels of development. So, like...
Oh, okay.
So So technically, the Paradise Syndrome episode where they go to the planet where it's like a bunch of, like, native people... Yeah. That is a complete violation of the Prime Directive because those people don't have hyper advanced technology. But if a society already has hyper advanced technology where they're like warp speed and blah, 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 and aliens coming to their planet wouldn't foundationally change their individual societal growth, even though obviously it foundationally changes like the way they see people, blah, 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 blah. But like that's what the Prime Directive is.
Okay.
So it isn't breaking the Prime Directive because they know about space people because they make them into sex slaves, essentially.
Okay. So it's not even... Like, they can interfere. I thought the Prime Directive was they weren't allowed to interfere at, like, any level.
No, they could interfere. Yeah, it's weird that they don't give them... Because on her way out, Deela's like, well... you are going to be, you know, real fast forever. Like, you come live on the planet or you can, like, die in the ship. And then Kirk looks to Spock and Spock does, like, a little head nod, like, nah, we got it. It's fine. And Kirk's like, okay, see you never. Bye. And then has this, like, wistful look at the end. And it's like, you could give him the cure.
Yeah. I don't know. I think part of it, too, might be, like, if they don't really want a cure, because they're clearly not really looking for it. And she says, like, we've gone to other planets, we've tried, but, like, never tried.
Yeah, have they tried? It feels like they haven't tried. Also, like, Kirk and Deal, like, did have sex. It's very, like, coded that they had sex. So, like, maybe...
It's not very coded. It's there.
It's there, right? He's putting on his boots and she's, like, brushing her hair or whatever. Yeah. So, like, maybe, you know, first time, you could get lucky. You could have a little, you know... Wouldn't be the first baby you made.
I was just gonna say, like, it definitely feels like there is literally no reason that she would not have gotten pregnant. Like, she implies that she has done this before,
right?
And
that their society has done it before,
or that I mean, she says that directly, that her parents and her grandparents have done this as well.
Also,
and
you would think that at some point, like, it would like with all of the other alien blood, it would like change the, I don't know. But I
this
also
is-
feel like
okay.
the women aren't barren, but the men are barren, or are they just barren when they put their own shit
Yes,
together?
that's what she said, is that the women couldn't carry the men, were barren to the men on the planet. But it could be like,
But could,
sounds so rude, but it...
Could the men have sex with like the human? Could the Scolosian
No, because the men are like...
So the men are like barren.
They're like Handmaid's Tale, like basically
Okay.
completely sterile. But it might be like donkeys, where like a horse and a donkey can have sex, but they have another donkey that cannot reproduce with another donkey. So like there's like a flip that gets switched inside of the
genetics.
genetic code, right? So that's what I assumed that it was. Is it's like,
Right.
okay, if we can bring in non-ruined sperm, we can like fit it in there.
But
and
also,
figure
like,
it out.
nobody thought. We are thinking about it way more than any of the writers thought about it.
Yeah,
It doesn't make any sense.
100%.
We're like, how does the fertility of this fucking planet work? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and it's like very gross. The whole thing is
Yeah,
gross.
it is super gross. It's very like...
My least favorite part about this episode is how Kirk goes from being like really pissed to being like kind of like, it was fine.
Well, it
But
felt
then
like
he leaves her to die. So
Yeah,
like,
it felt like an act. It
it's
felt like he was
confusing.
doing that on purpose. Like it was a lull into, I'm gonna steal your phaser and then I'm just kind of gonna let
It
you
definitely
go.
was an act, but then even at the end, like he has that like wistful look at her, like when he's like by himself, essentially. Like she's not there to like buy into the act. So I hate that part. I hate the like wistful look.
See, it felt very much like Game Recognized Game to me.
Oh.
Where it was like...
Interesting. I like your read a lot better.
Because he says that line to her about, like, I would love nothing more than to spend the rest of my life with you except to stay alive.
Right.
Like, that wistfulness of, like...
But I meant the
man,
looking at the screen at the end.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Of, like,
Okay.
man, she really tried it. She really tried it. And, like, she
Did get some of my sperm, though.
She
so.
got all that
Yeah.
sex magic, and you know what? I might have a little tiny Kirk that lives for like 14 minutes, and you know what? Good for him. And like that's what it felt like to me. It was like it wasn't like, oh, I'm actually in love with this woman in the way that the one with the tears, where it was like, oh, you're like genetically programmed to like this woman. It felt very much like, oh, I had to like do all the sex magic. I'd like really let into the character, and like it's like when you end a show and you're like,
Oh, he got
know?
acting disease.
yeah, like I kind of, I'm gonna miss that one. It was, I really put my all into that, and so did my scene partner. And you know what? I'm gonna miss
So
that
did my
one.
scene partner.
I'm gonna miss that one.
I also like all of the time stuff doesn't make any sense to you.
Oh, no.
By the time they hear this message, we'll be done, but they weren't done. And also, like some scenes, Scotty was like still just in the same movement,
Yeah.
but in other scenes, they were just moving kind of slow. Like it's
Can
a
they
mess.
control how fast
No.
they're going? Okay, yeah, that's weird.
It's a mess.
Yes, it's a mess.
And also, if you get scratched, you die or whatever,
very strange.
which would also lead to like the most boring sex.
yeah.
Like,
That's
don't
the
touch
thing.
me.
Like,
Don't fuck. God, I'm gonna fuck. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
you just have to soak like Mormons do.
I hate you. I hate you so much. I am disgusted by that image. And I have imagined the character of Captain Kirk in almost every every sexual position you could think of. I have read and seen drawn the worst, most despicable things done to this man by plants, by aliens, by every sex toy known to the galaxy. But the image of this woman and this man soaking, which is the worst verb for that, is truly maybe the only line that I have found.
You're not into soaking, Vic.
So my hard lines now are incest, underage, and soaking. For those of you who just found this podcast, you were like, wow, neat. I love the X-Files and I like Star Trek.
You're welcome. You probably don't know what soaking is then. Maybe don't look up the images. Oh, honestly, you could, because it's just two people on
It's just two people
sheet.
sitting very still.
Face to face under a sheet. Hello. How are you doing
And there's
today?
no freaky Vulcan mind melt happening. That's the only time it's okay. Because
Yeah, there's just another person on the bed jumping up and down to jostle them. I know all of this against my will. I just should know that.
I feel like I did not really understand the jumping up and down part. The more I learn, because I'm not, into this. Again, I will read it. I read Despicable
Honestly,
Shit.
it's really built for the triumvirate to have two people soaking in wet drips and like everyone's having a good time.
McCoy's just jumping up and grumbly, jumping up and down on the bed.
Oh, I thought we were gonna have a puzzle night.
Leonard McCoy does not like puzzles. He is not a
that's
game
why
night
they're
person.
soaking. They took a vote, and
Who's
McCoy.
jumping on the bed?
McCoy.
Why is he upset about them? I don't think Leonard McCoy enjoys puzzles.
More than jumping up and down as the third to a soak. I would argue he does. You can drink whiskey while you do puzzles. You can't do it while you're assisting a soak.
Kirk is the bottom here, right?
Yes,
Okay.
of course. Spock would not sit for a soaking in which he was the bottom. Are you kidding me? No.
Yeah, he's only the bottom as a special treat on occasion.
No, Spock just does that thing where he makes himself fall asleep or into a meditation, and Kirk is like, and then McCoy's like, okay, let's go.
Remember how I said this is a hard line for me? I feel very violated. So anyways, nobody thought about this. Maybe they should have called Margaret Armin over and been like, hey, Margaret, how we haven't thought about the hyper-accelerated sex. And she could have been like, I have had some thoughts about it.
Give me 45 minutes.
First of all, I think there should be a lot more tentacles. What if the aliens had tentacles? And everybody was like, oh yeah, that's why we don't
That's why we
invite
didn't
you.
call Margaret.
That's why we didn't call Margaret. Would it interest you to know that this is based off of a short story by H.G. Wells called The New Accelerator, which I have not read.
I wouldn't.
I wonder.
If it's racist.
Oh no, I was going to say, I wonder if there's any questionable sense.
I suppose that H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah.
You can't just assume that it's racist.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's H.G. Wells, not Lovecraft.
Yeah,
Yeah.
H.G. Wells was like, pretty okay, I think.
I mean, probably still a little racist because
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
my question is the accelerator what you call the guy who jumps on the bed while you're soaking?
Oh boy.
Oh my God.
Anyways, stop thinking about the science.
Okay, I will.
If you want to think about science, you can think about the fact that Spock almost immediately figures out what's going on. Goes to Bones and is like, this is what's happening. Can you make a thing? He goes, yeah, I can make a thing. And then immediately makes a thing. And it's like, you sure want to drink this thing? And he's like, yeah, I want to drink this
Oh,
thing.
yeah, bitch.
And then is like, that thing worked. I knew it would. I'll never tell him that, though. I'll never tell him that. And then he goes and saves the day. And then is like, well, we fixed it. Bones did it again.
Yeah, but like
Medical genius Leonard H. McCoy.
basically everything past Kirk and Deela having sex is like A+ episode. It's everything leading up to that that's like,
What is happening?
yeah, exactly. And it's, I mean, part of it is usually what happens on extracts is that a theme will give away what's happening. That's not the case with what happened here. And so I feel
We
like
just knew Kirk would be doing
a
dumb
thing. Right, exactly. And like watching him touch it once, I was like, oh, that's the thing. And you were like, no.
Don't touch it.
Whole body leaning in.
I love that he just makes direct eye contact and is like, ouch.
I will be touching it.
Both hands.
Yeah, I felt like I made a note later that I wound up not taking a lot of notes because I was like actually watching because I didn't know what was going to happen because of the theme, which is unusual for us. And so I feel like there were a lot of things I liked about this episode, but the first half is weird.
Yeah.
I like the like look and aesthetic of the planet, and like I like that all of the costumes for the Scalosians or whatever their name is
That's right.
is consistent. I like that it all looks the same. I wish that her outfit could make up its mind about what part it was.
So Andrea Weaver, who was the costumer, this was her last episode. So she really went out with a bang.
I mean, the one, what's his face? Comps?
Yep, it's definitely Comps.
Comps? Compton?
Compton is the red shirt.
Okay, yes, Compton. When he, the woman that he is hooked up with, I also really liked her outfit. I wish we could have seen it, the whole thing, up and down. We
Where
only
he
got to see
dies,
her.
and then Ryle's like, we'll get you another one. She's like, whatever.
Yeah, because they've all had a dozen at this point.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing, like, you don't get pregnant just because you have sex once. Like, it's a thing you have to do many times usually in order to get pregnant. So I imagine that you have rough sex with one dude and it's like, well, his dick fell off. Time to find another one. So I like that. I like that she's like, sure, whatever, disposable, I guess. How long do you think their pregnancies take in our time? A couple minutes?
Well,
because the time is confusing. I don't understand.
I think you're making it faster than it is, because if it was that fast, by the time Kirk and Spock were unfast, they would be older, and they're not.
Okay, that's true. Okay.
It doesn't make any sense.
You told me to stop asking questions about the physics, and I won't.
Yeah.
So.
But that hallway scene, though.
I loved it so much. It was so good. I love the, like, I don't know if it's just, maybe it's because we've been watching more season 3 and so it's like fresh in my memory, but it feels like Shatner is much more loose with the like played up affection and like physicality of
modern day Shatner is like, why do you guys make us gay? And we're all like, because you acted it this way. This is all your fault, Bill.
It's and like Deela has that note where Kirk is like running to try to communicate, and she says
running to Spock.
He's running to Spock to try to coordinate. This species is capable of much affection, which indicates that Kirk is that Kirk is like communicating in some kind of like way that indicates he has a lot of affection, or is coded in a way that they're like he's using a code because they have all this affection for each other or whatever. So I like that that's another example of it's not subtext, it's just text. So I liked that a lot, and I like that it's more affirmation that this reading is not just horny women in the 60s. Like, it is written into these scripts. The relationship between Rael and Delia, I feel like I would enjoy this episode more on a rewatch, because I kind of knew what was going on with the like wink of an eye stuff, but the relationship between Delia and Rael is so fucking weird.
It's so weird
that I feel like I wish I would have known it originally going into her interactions with Kirk, because I feel like it would have colored the way that I feel about her initial like bringing him into their race.
Yeah, it's coded really. I like how she's the queen, and I like how she says to Rael a couple times, like, I don't necessarily want to be doing this, but I deserve to be doing it with somebody that, like, I don't fucking find disgusting.
Allow me the dignity of liking the man I select. I liked that a lot, and I think there's a lot of really interesting ethical questions behind that, where if you are trying to save your race and you need to have live sex in order to do it, and you can't use sperm or whatever, like, I think that there is, it's basically the ethical question behind arranged marriage. Like, these are just a series of hundreds of arranged marriages of this ship is up there, fucking pick somebody, you get that much choice. Like, are you physically disgusted by this person? No, cool, we'll slow them down, you'll fuck them up, they'll die. Awesome, have fun, I guess.
Speed them up.
Yes. Well, we'll fuck them up by having sex with them and then ruining them. Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's a very interesting line to throw in towards the end too, that it's like, this is a much larger complication to this, that she should get some choice. She should actually get to have some say in the man whose penis goes inside of her. Like, that is a really interesting thing to think about. But also, the man whose penis is going inside of her should also get that. Choice. Exactly, right. And like, she says to him, there's no way for me to communicate to you until I slow you down. And so there's no way to get consent.
Which is also not true.
Yeah, like, literally write it down. Like, Kirk figured it out.
Yeah.
And like, I guess it's the physics of it that, like, if you use this stuff, it'll get destroyed or fucking whatever.
But it doesn't.
Yeah. And so the idea that they couldn't just, like, you look down and there's nothing, and you look up and you look down and there's a note from somebody, like, that, you should do that. Like, it's weird that they don't do that and that the writers didn't think that far into it. at all is very strange.
Yeah, it's super weird. So in season 1 of Picard, there are these Romulans who are brother and sister, but they like really are coded like they fuck and they want to fuck and they have been fucking. And I get that vibe from Teela and Rael. And I know it's like not that, but that is the vibe that it gets from me. It's
it feels
I don't like it. Instead of like, I love you and you love me, but we can't be together because of the survival of our species or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But like, it definitely feels real incestuous and I don't like it.
It's weird. And it, like, it's not even necessarily that it feels like, well, for the survival of our species, we can't be together. It's like, I mean, she says it's been going on for generations. And so it's like not even an option that she would be with Rael. And so it feels very much like the court page who's in love with the queen. And it's like, well, yeah,
but
of course I
she's
can't.
in love with him too.
Right. And it's like, of course I can't fucking be with you. That's the deal. And then later in the episode, you learn that she is actually like, I want to be with someone who's exactly like Rael. And it's like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, that's really dumb. And also, like, for the survival of your species, can't you just be with the person you love? Like,
couldn't you just get pregnant?
Yeah.
And then just like have that baby?
And then you like raise it together. Like, it's so strange that it's not thought out enough. And I feel like it just opens up so many questions that make it like very distracting.
It's rough. A lot. Specifically, I found a lot of Star Trek novelists being like, not a bad idea, but poorly fleshed out. So all of these novelists who have written a bunch of Star Trek are like, I get it. It's not a bad idea, but y'all really shit the bed. Yeah, it just like doesn't make any sense. There is an episode of Star Trek Voyager where they have like time acceleration aliens, but they're not hostile, but they do have to like figure it out or whatever. So the big thing about this episode is that this is a season 3, so they didn't have a lot of money. So that's why it takes place primarily on the ship. But you noted this, the director, Judd Taylor, he did a really good job of like making the ship seem interesting. So like when they're sped up, they like have the camera tilt and the like journey into hyperacceleration and like all of that stuff was pretty good to like make this like semi-model episode, or this episode where they were trying to save a lot of money, like visually interesting at least.
Yeah, they did a lot of like, there's that shot of Kirk, Spock, and Scotty where they're in like the different angles and like the
directing of this visual is good.
Yeah, the lighting direction is excellent. I feel like the way that the camera is shot is really good. Like they're clearly using there are some episodes of Star Trek where they're clearly used at like the NBC fall creative lineup show where it's like, here's an awesome shot of Technicolor and this shit fucking rules. And they're like, cool, awesome. Give him a little bit of money, I guess. Like that's what that shot feels like. Or like the Emmy bait shot where they're like, this person, we want to make sure that they have an Emmy package that they can submit, make this shot, it looks fucking cool, send it off in a reel. Like that, it feels very purposeful that it's designed very well. And I like that.
Yeah, there's like not much about this other than lots of people, reviewers and writers being like, it's not a terrible concept. It's just executed. It's not thought out. Like, again, we thought out, maybe to our detriment, a lot of things that they have not thought out like even once.
Yeah.
And I didn't even really find, like, a lot of these times we'll be like, oh, these Scosians came back in this novel. I didn't find any of that. I don't think Bobby did either. So, like, they were like, nah.
They legit leave them to die.
These people probably died. These people are dead. Sit up.
Okay,
Shut down.
Fantastic.
Kirk gets himself into a pickle when an alien queen wants him to be her fancy sperm donor, but McCoy and Spock said, absolutely not. Buzz off, bitch.
Do not ever threaten Spock's husband because he will do dangerous experimental science about it and literally leave your civilization to die.
Are you ready for Scully? It's me on an oil rig.
Hey, Scully, it's me. Mulder, what are you doing there?
You aren't surprised.
Are you surprised? No, bitch, I guess not. Yes, I am ready.
Where a substance was brought to the surface, which you describe as a highly contagious virus of extraterrestrial origin that has radioactive properties and can take over a man's body, and is part of an alien conspiracy to colonize the planet, if I'm not mistaken.
And you'd love to help, but you left your lightsaber at home.
Guess what, everyone? It's our old friend, the black oil. It's back, and it's on an oil platform in the middle of the ocean. I didn't ask if you were ready. I hope you're ready for this summary. And one dude is super pissed about it. He's murdering people. He's destroying radio communications. He's watching the foreman glow a formidable yellow color. It's like Little Green Men. Instead of the jungle, it's an oil platform. And instead of the little giggly gray guys, we got this bullshit. Anyway, back at the FBI, Mulder is telling John Doggett about the murder of the freaking out guy, De La Cruz, and how his body was 90% covered in radiation burns. The oil company is claiming it was an explosion, but Mulder has spidey senses on this one and is like, it's definitely the black oil. And he's right, of course. Kirsch sends Doggett off into the Gulf of Mexico to investigate the site, but when he gets there, guess whose happy ass has already flown himself out there, presumably on his own dime? That's right, it's this guy, Agent Fox Mulder. This is a gift from First Person Shooter, in case you didn't recognize it. Anyway, when Doggett and Mulder talk to the previously mentioned foreman, no longer glowing, he claims that De La Cruz died trying to blow up the oil platform. However, back in D.C., Scully discovers that the black oil inside De La Cruz's skull during an autopsy, it looks all weird, and Scully's like, hey, what's going on here? And through several scenes, discovers that the oil is dead because De La Cruz's native heritage provides an immunity from the oil, and he actually did die from radiation burns, unconnected to the oil, which was already dead inside of him, from the glowing foreman. They don't know that at this point. It's fucking complicated.
It's very confusing. I had to pause it and ask questions like 6 times.
A lot of times. It's super confusing. Because they've also discovered proof of the black oil on the rig, Doggett, an actual police person, orders the quarantine of the platform. They discovered that De La Cruz's friend, Garza, who also has native heritage and is thus likely also immune, is missing. While searching for him, they discover that someone has tried to destroy the communications room, and as they try to put the fire out, surprise, it's Garza! And he attacks Doggett and knocks him the fuck out. When he wakes up, Garza cuts him, checking to see for black oil. He has red blood, it's all very dramatic. Meanwhile, Kirsch is hella annoyed, per usual, and orders a break in the quarantine. Massive, unexplained fire that someone died in and that's unaccounted for the platform. Who cares? Drill down, baby! Scully is like, alright, yeah, sure, fine, whatever, you big dumb bitch. Cut back to Doggett, who has had the opposite effect on people as Mulder, and he and Garza are having like a nice chat about what the fuck is going on. When he tries to leave, he is attacked by the not presently glowing foreman. Mulder arrives just in time to save Doggett, and they barricade themselves in the ruined communication room, trying to get a signal out. Eventually, they reach Scully, who tells them that the quarantine has been broken and helicopters are on the way, and they gotta get the fuck out of there. And the foreman and the crew are banging on the door in a state to scare a mob when suddenly they stop, and Mulder destroys the communication devices, so, quote, they cannot communicate with the aliens. This is the first time this is, like, basically mentioned in this episode that that's what the communication system is for and why they're trying to destroy it. It's fucking confusing. And they start sabotaging the platform instead. Mulder and Doggett have to bail off into the ocean before the platform gloriously explodes. But, lucky for them, the helicopters that Kirsch sent to break the quarantine are now able to scoop them up and fly away from the Mexican Gulf of alien danger. Later, Mulder informs Doggett that he's been dismissed from the FBI. The end. What did you think of this episode?
Once I understood what was going on, because I definitely thought it was going in a slightly different way, I think that this episode is really good. That,
yes.
You know, for what the black goo is, it does make, inside of this episode, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Mulder's A+ Moldering. It is, like, kind of an excellent way to write him off, this, like, handing of the torch, like, I fell on the sword, but, like, I proved that some shit was real before I went, so now you're gonna be questioning stuff. Okay,
yes.
bye! Skinner and Scully really close, talking and whispers, kind of. Was pretty good for me, so that was pretty good. Yeah, this episode's really good. It fits the theme, the whole, like, I'm gonna go. I have seen Kirsch on and off, and, like, this is probably, I think, inside an episode, the most Kirsch, which that was one of the times I paused, and I was like, okay, so is Kirsch, like, a part of the syndicate and stuff, or is this just a man trying to do his job and is really annoyed because all these ding-dongs are making it hard to do his job? And you were like, the latter. And I was like, so I have a little sympathy for him.
Yeah, and I said at the time, too, there is a reason he does get, like, a sort of redemption at the original series finale. Like, he truly is just a man trying to do his job, which is to protect capitalism. And, like, ick, but also,
right,
like...
bad job, but, like...
He is also doing his job.
Yeah.
He's the character they wrote for Skinner before Skinner became involved.
Yeah, before they were like, I don't know.
Are you in a throuple?
He's so handsome. We need to write it so he'll take his shirt off more.
He can't be just a government crone and have his shirt on. Ick.
Ick.
We're not doing that.
Mitch Pileggi in a shirt. Ick.
Ick. Yeah, this is it's a fucking weird episode. I'm glad that we watched the last episode of X-Trex before we did this one, because this would have been fucking confusing without that information. This is the penultimate black oil scene. The only time it ever comes back is this is the only time actively in story moving forward in time that we see the black oil. This is the last time. In the finale, the original finale, we see it in a flashback. And so they like kind of explain it within the context of the show in the series finale.
Okay.
They don't explain better rules, that it's literally just old footage, so you can't like expect anything better.
Okay.
But like this is basically the last time we see the black oil,
And they still haven't figured out the rules.
yes,
of
and
their alien that
and
they
like
created.
them exploding it on this oil platform is like, okay, I guess we won the oil alien war because it's gone now. Like it's very, very unclear.
Dumb.
But like I agree, I really like this episode. This is one of the only ones from season 8 that's like very well received. Also, let's see, I wrote it down. It's considered one of the best episodes of the series, actually, and one of the best ones of the 8th season. A lot of people who reviewed it said things similar to, it made me feel happy to be an X-Files fan again, because after season 8, which is like chaos basically, we had to explain to you why Mulder is back, because like this season is fucking weird, and he's dead and he's not dead. There's like a whole bunch of bullshit, which is related to other aliens that are not these aliens. Like it's super fucking confusing. And so it is nice that I think this is a great Baby Does the Thing episode because it absolutely is written that way on purpose.
Yeah.
Mulder is Muldering super fucking hard, and Mulder is getting fired for Muldering and passing the torch. Like, it's super heavy-handed. Like, oh, you read the files. Ooh.
Oh, so I might be leaving this in good hands?
Oh, interesting. Well, anyway, gonna go fly out to the Gulf of Mexico without you. Oh, you're here? Why don't we do this together? Huh?
Do you want to be bros for life?
Yeah, you said something very funny that I really liked. I'm sad Mulder leaves. I want them to bro down. I do not ship them, but I want them to become reluctant friends.
Yeah. See, contrary to popular belief, I do not ship everyone.
No, I don't think that they would be a good ship
No.
at all, but
Gross.
they would be great friends.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Bones and Chapel. I don't want them to kiss. I want them to work very well together. That
Besties.
one of them
reluctant besties.
Yes, exactly. This is a great reluctant besties episode.
And that there's like a scene where like they're talking after work, and then Bones goes, "Oh, I didn't realize this, but you've become the closest person in my life." And it's like, oh yeah, sad reluctant friendship.
Yeah. It's I like their dynamic a lot, and I feel like they really did want to pass this on to Robert Patrick, and he tried so hard.
Yeah, any episodes I've
Like,
seen, he does a good job.
He really fucking tries, and like is really committed to, this is a new character. I'm not trying to just be David Duchovny. Like
They're
really
such
tries.
different characters.
Yeah, and like again, in hindsight, knowing that Mulder comes back again later, we get 2 more seasons with him. Like, dog, it really got done dirty. It sucks. It sucks that like. I get it though. I would have been pissed. I was pissed when I watched it the first time and like didn't have more Mulder. Like, it is such a disappointing end to the series as a whole. But in the full context of everything, Doggett fucking rules and like is a very good character. And Robert Patrick does a great job. And like him and Duchovny have fucking great chemistry in this. They were like buddy paired up for all the filming because there's scenes in both places. So this was actually filmed on an abandoned oil rig. The reason that this episode was written is because in season 8, the locations director was told, just go find cool stuff. Like, up until now, it's all been, here's a script, go find a location. Here's a script, here's an idea, go find a location.
Right.
And with this one, he got to travel around and just go, that place is cool. Could we get a filming permit? If that place is cool, can we get a filming permit? And one of the ones he found was the oil platform. And he was like, we have to do this. Like, we've got to find a way to figure how to get, there's just so much.
Yeah.
And so normally they only get 2 weeks to like rig up some, like a set in order to film on it. And they got 6 with this. And we're given a lot of time to do those like individual shots. They had to do like a big shoot all at the same time from a bunch of different angles. And they wound up shooting like 65 scenes overnight so that it could all be ready on the platform and they didn't have to like trash any of it. And that explosion at the end, a lot of that is rigged up on the platform, and then the actual shot of them jumping is a green screen from like a studio set.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great example of a show is very popular, it gets a lot of money, just let them go do shit.
Yeah.
Like, this is the extra episode before this, where we talked about Terma and Tunguska, where they're like, we just wanted to write a fun canvas. This is an actually very good execution of that want.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you had to wait 4 more seasons and there's a lot more money now and people are really invested and pissed and you have to placate them. Like, this was a really great use of that, in my
deadly
opinion.
combination.
Yeah, right.
Invested
Exactly.
and pissed.
Yeah, exactly. Uh-oh, the internet's bad. Yeah, so there's a lot about this. This is one of those ones where when I'm doing a full rewatch, I'll get to this one and be like, oh, that's right. There is actually quite a bit.
You said that in the beginning, like 5 minutes in, you were like, I fucking love this episode.
It's so good. I like forget how good it is. I forget how much Skinner is in it. I forget how like, and like Scully is shot in an interesting way as a pregnant person that doesn't try to hide her pregnancy.
They do a good job also of keeping Scully really a part, an important pivotal plot point.
Yes. And they do a really great throwback shot to second season of her on the phone and Mulder on the phone, like straight up close face shot where hiding your belly and then to zoom out and have her actually be pregnant was like very satisfying as like a long watch, like visual side to side at the beginning and end of the series, which I really enjoyed. And I'd never noticed before. It was, again, doing this format where we watch it so out of order, I feel like draws my attention to that kind of stuff too. And so it was nice to be like, oh, this is like a direct homage to their relationship from the beginning of the series. So I really liked that. The episode's title is a Spanish word meaning they come, vienen, or they are coming. And some writers say that it's a foreshadowing for the super soldier stuff that comes later in season 9. But contemporarily to when this episode came out, the like episode plot and name were released before the episode, because that's how you do TV or whatever. And there was like a lot of controversy that this was going to be an offensive episode, that it was going to be specifically about how Mexican people are bad.
Oh.
Because it was happening in a lot of other networks at the time. And so there were...
People were like, not in my X-Files.
There was an episode of Law and Order called Sunday in the Park with Jorge that was like... very racist. It was super racist against Mexican people, and that's why major networks have diversity inclusion officers now, because the episode was so racist that basically every TV studio had to like bring on consultants about, hey, don't do this because it's fucking racist.
Insane.
And so this episode was aired while that controversy was happening, and so people saw Vienen, they're coming, this is about Mexican aliens, basically, like actual aliens, but that's how it reads, is Mexican aliens. And so before it came out, there was a lot of like back and forth about how do we do this and explain that that's not what we mean, but also like that's not good that this is happening. So it's like a very strange cultural moment inside of this like very weird, almost innocuous feeling title now.
Was that episode completely done when they...
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Interesting, because they have those couple lines with the, like, you know, the big, like, white oil rig guy being like, yeah, these, like, the Mexican men on my crew are the, like, hardest workers here. Like, that's why it was, like, show, which is, like, could also be read as, like, kind of racist. But, like, you know, positive racism, you know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, yeah, there are worse stereotypes.
There are a lot of worse things you could say.
There are a lot of worse
yeah.
stereotypes. So I was just wondering if it was like a rewrite, but it seems like they were on the oil rig and
no, it's
it
was just.
So it's really interesting that they had to be like, no, ours is like not like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like kind of I mean, we do definitely fridge them, but they are like kind of the heroes.
They're the harbingers of information, and
Yeah.
like they are ultimately the good guys, and
Right.
like the X-Files is weird because it really leans into. Like, the only pure people that the aliens can't take over are Native Americans, which, like, if you're gonna do that with anyone, I guess
I mean,
that's good.
in my watching currently in this moment when we're recording, in my watching of X-Files episodes that I'm allowed to watch because I know we're not recording them.
Yeah.
I'm like somewhere in season 3, kind of in the beginning, the beginning has a lot of wild, like, magical Native American stuff that they all these, like, friendly Native Americans save Mulder for some fucking reason.
Yes, absolutely.
So, like, it seems definitely like something that Chris Carter was, like, into.
Yeah, it's like Chris Carter got really into spiritualism, and he's like, you know who's got to figure it out? Native Americans. And it's like, it goes magical Negro a little bit in season 3, but, like, other than that is, like, weirdly respectful of Native people also, and, like, imbues them with this idea of, like, you're the only non-corruptible ones, which is fucking weird, but also, like, not negative racism in a way that you would expect.
But it's also still not. It's
right,
still
it's
othering.
like, what the fuck is happening here? Yeah, it's
still
a very...
othering, but it's in, like, a weird... Yeah.
Exactly, and so it's like, okay, well, your reaction is correct that this might be weird and like racist in this way, but not in the way you were expecting. It's very strange. It's like the relationship that the X-Files has with native populations tries to be very respectful, but it's the 2000s, and so now 23 years later it's like, what the fuck is this? You read that or you listened to that audiobook that was like weirdly racist about native people.
I think it's an X-Files episode called Dust. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what it makes me think of, is that like it's authors trying to extrapolate on the X-Files' love of native heritage, but it just all comes out fucking wrong. And like, oh God, just let a native person write this. Like, it's
or,
wild.
Don't
or
write
don't.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was called Dust. Yeah, because I like listened to like one X-Files novel and was like, yikes.
Yeah, that's
not great, maybe.
Doesn't sound great.
Except for those YA ones that we read, especially the Cami Garcia one.
Yeah, the Cami Garcia one was really good. The other one was garbage. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this episode.
Are you ready for Synopsis Showdown?
Yes, I am. Mulder passes the X-Files torch to Doggett while simultaneously damaging the American economy.
Agent Doggett got moldered. Finger guns.
Fair enough.
Smoke bomb. I'm out of here.
Smoke bomb.
I picked it up from my magic friends.
Oh, God. All right. Are you ready for Team Parents Mission Logs?
I am.
Let's do it.
Go ahead. You won't accomplish anything, but it may be historically valuable.
Okay, starting off with Star Trek. This episode was directed by Judd Taylor. He directed 5 episodes of Trek the Original Series during the show's 3rd season, including The Paradise Syndrome, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, Mark of Gideon, and The Cloudminders. He also directed...
Mark of Gideon is the abortion one.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I don't know if that's season 3, or he just got some bad picks.
Yeah, it seems like he got some bad picks.
As we mentioned before, this has a story credit by Lee Cronin, who is just Gene L. Coon, who wasn't allowed to sign his scripts as Gene L. Coon because he was supposed to be working for Universal. This is the teleplay by Arthur Heineman, who we know from The Way to Eden and also pens The Savage Curtain.
Oh, okay.
At the beginning of the episode, Scotty is shown on the bridge recording a log while other dialogue is played over the scene. This is clearly not the Scotty in the rest of the episode because his hair is completely different. This is some season 3 fuckery that they just needed some footage to throw in there for the opening log. There's no reason why it's Scotty and not Kirk.
It doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
I thought it was going to become a plot point, and then it just didn't.
Nope, that's just used footage from the empath.
Well, it's Scotty and not Kirk because Kirk is down on the planet. That's why.
But we've started episodes with Kirk down on the planet doing logs in the past.
Yeah.
I just meant visually, that's why.
We see a Scalosian weapon that is just a lathe spray painted and turned upside down. Great stuff. Also, like some weirdness when Kirk shoots and misses Deela on the bridge. It's the only time that a phaser beam is tinted green at all. I don't know if that's because it's a phaser beam and it's light, so it's slowed down.
And also, like, that's also not how
phasers work at all.
Phasers work.
Nope.
Because, like, the phaser would still be, like, really fast.
Yeah.
The remastered version of this adds some new shots of Skelos from space, as well as bumping up that background when they land on the planet that y'all notice. It is counted as a score against the censors that they sneak in that heavily implied / they definitely had sex scene.
Yeah. He's
Because
putting his boots on. What else is he doing?
They definitely had sex. And also, I don't usually fuck with the goofs or mistakes or whatever section on IMDb because making anything is hard and inconsistencies in shot happens. However, the one for this episode simply states, Captain Kirk could have quite easily communicated with his crew using basic pen and paper. And
Yeah, even if your argument is like, well, they don't really have pens and papers. They got pads. You can write it on a pad. We see them ding-dongs writing on pads all the time.
He could have sent them
He
a
could have
message
sent
on
them.
pads.
This could have been an email.
Literally, this episode could have been an email.
Yeah,
That's
weird.
that's it. Okay. We're not going to think about this anymore. We're going to go to casting for a little bit. That's Jeffrey Binney as Compton, who was just doing his job. Later goes on to play Johnny Chicago in the film Hot Potato. I don't know this movie or this man. I just wanted to say all those words. Also small roles in the original Battlestar Galactica movie and Mission Impossible. As Ecor, that's Eric Holland. He's most known for playing Professor Langford in the original Stargate movie and Olaf Dahl in Titanic and the Fire Commissioner in Ghostbusters 2. Also in the original Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Mannix the Bionic Woman, MacGyver, Baywatch. One of his last credits was a West Wing episode. The Range, the timeline, absolutely wild.
The timeline.
The range.
That is Jason Evers as Rael. He's also Dr. Bill Corder in The Brain That Wouldn't Die, which is one of the coolest classic movie posters ever. I had it in my room as a kid. Also Captain Coleman in The Green Berets with Zulu, who we talked about a lot, and started acting after serving in World War II and seeing a bunch of famous actors visit while Toronto. And he's like, well, yeah, I want to do that after the war. Sure, why not? A long-running list of TV guest roles in films, over 118, including Cheyenne Laramie, 26 episodes of Channing as Professor Howe, 3 episodes of Perry Mason, TJ Hooker, all the way up to Dukes of Hazzard and A-Team stuff in the 80s. That brings us to Catherine Brown as Deela. She got her break in TV after appearing in a Los Angeles production of the Tennessee Williams play Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I could see her. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That would work.
Yeah.
And then did, as you can imagine from her hair and those eyebrows and eyelids and everything, all the cowboy shows. Yeah. Literally any cowboy show I've ever mentioned, all of the cowboy shows. Also 77 and the Sunset Strip, Hazel, Braided, Ironside, and her last credit was 2 episodes of The Love Boat. Every time I watch this episode, I hate this character, but slowly realize how good she is in this role. Mm-hmm. She does a lot with this. Yeah. After not getting a lot. Moving on to Vienen, this was written by Stephen Maida. Stephen writes some later season high points, including Brand X, Red Rum, 4D, and Audrey Pauly, and has story editor credits for damn near all of season 8 and 9 episodes of The X-Files. A hard job.
Audrey Pauly is one of the only good episodes in season 9. There are very far and few between. It's like, I can enjoy that season. It is objectively not very good, but that episode is very good. Brand
X is a great episode. Yeah. Red Rum's a great episode, even though kind of being a prison episode still.
Yeah, but they do a good job with that one.
Yeah. He also produces 23 episodes of Lost and 72 episodes of CSI Miami, amongst other things. So he gets work. This is directed by Rod Hardy, who directed the earlier season 8 episodes Roadrunner and Salvage. I'm not sure we get to either of those. I don't think so. Hardy was offered the role after an unknown individual working on The X-Files saw his TBS remake of the film High Noon and loved it.
Interesting.
We are watching Salvage.
Okay, cool. He claims this episode of the 3 that he worked on is his favorite because it felt like working on classic X-Files.
Yeah.
We got the goo. We got danger. We're jumping locations. I totally get that.
Skinner, real close.
Skinner, Scully talking real close. An autopsy. It hits all the high points.
Scully horrifying people with the autopsy over and over for no reason.
Hardy's done a lot of different TV shows and some fun B-movies, including directing the David Hasselhoff, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. movie, which is the second time I've mentioned this lately. Also directs Season 6, Episode 5 of Supernatural, Live Free or Twi Hard.
Oh, okay. So this is the Twilight episode. This is the episode where a group of vampires pretend to be Edward Cullen-esque people to trap a bunch of teenagers and turn them into vampires to go onto the message boards to trap a bunch of other teenagers to turn them into vampires.
Amazing.
And also the head vampire of that particular coven is did you ever see the TV show Happy, based on the graphic novel with Christopher Maloney, and there's like an evil Santa Claus?
Yes.
The guy who plays that evil Santa Claus is the leader of the vampire coven, and he wants to fuck Dean Winchester.
I've seen that one.
Oh, I probably should.
You showed me that one.
It's actually a really good Mitch Pileggi episode, actually, too, because Sam doesn't have a soul. Doesn't help Dean when Dean's being turned into a vampire by the guy who very much wants to fuck him. So he calls Samuel Campbell up and he's like, so Dean's a vampire. And Samuel Campbell's like, hey, but did he drink any blood? And they're like, not yet. And he's like, well, I got a cure. And they're like, what do you mean? There's no cure. He's like, I'm fucking Samuel Campbell. There's a fucking cure. It's a messy episode in terms of
messy.
but it's also an amazing episode.
The house that they live in is cool. That like 2-story dorm thing.
Where they keep the young vampire girls with like little gerbil bags full of blood, and then they give them computer time to trap other girls, being like, your dark or my dark soul, just like write poetry to like other teenagers to trap them with the Twilight.
Well, I'm glad I made that note.
See, some episodes live here forever. Some are just like, that's a werewolf one.
Thank you, Rod Hardy, for your gifts.
Why was that brought up? I totally blanked. I just got excited.
The director of that episode directed this episode.
Yes. No, that tracks to me.
Yeah, of course.
The script, not the best.
Interesting
the
location.
Actual show, interesting location. Yeah. The actual show, very good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he did some like pulpy B-movie vampire stuff back in the 80s as well. He had a very varied resume. So good guy to have on an episode like this.
I'm just laughing about the Twilight episode, and I was like, oh, here's all of the facts.
Also of note for this episode, for a practical joke, the makeup team made sure that the irradiated corpse that Scully examines in the autopsy room had a huge prosthetic penis.
Great.
Gillian Anderson was caught completely unawares, but found it highly amusing.
Of course she
did. If
did.
you know anything about Gillian Anderson, that plays.
Yeah, for real.
Absolutely. She would
if you're going to
react
do a
usually to that.
dildo practical joke, you have to know that it's going to land.
Yeah.
You can't be iffy.
No. Moving on to some casting stuff, we see Steve Wilcox as Ed Dell. He was most known for his roles in American Me and Gang Related. He was in a movie called Nudist Colony of the Dead, which I have to see now. And was recently in the 2019 Swamp Thing remake and Station 19. We see Louis Villalta as Simon De La Cruz. He was Officer Avila on 4 episodes of The Shield and voiced Alonso Mendez in the LA Noire video game. We see Lee Rarman as Yuri Volkov. Yuri is the bigger guy with the high and tight haircut in the oil rig. This character is also briefly shown in the season 9 episode The Truth, which is when you were talking about they're kind of wrapping up.
Yeah.
He was also Kraus in Last Action Hero, did a bunch of 90s and 2000s TV show, 29 episodes as Special Agent Hardison in The First Family, and episodes of General Hospital. However, he's most known for being the American Gladiator Hawk in the original run of American Gladiators, and also hosting several reality shows on the Speed Network.
Weird.
That brings us to MC Gainey as Bo Taylor, who you will just know by face as soon as you see him, and especially because he like glows super bright and irradiates a dude. Yeah. But also by voice, you just know him. Yes, he has done everything. He was Swamp Thing, the pilot in Con Air. He was in Pennies from Heaven, Starman, Lewis in The Mighty Ducks, Big Smith on The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., Hank Trellis in Run, Ronnie, Run. That one's just for me. 20 episodes of Days of Our Lives, playing 4 different characters.
Good for him.
The sheriff in the Dukes of Hazzard Redux movie. Tom Friendly in 21 episodes of Lost, which is what Aaron
he rules.
And Big John Brittle in Django Unchained, and so much more.
Yeah, he is in that movie.
He's in
I
Django
forgot
Unchained.
about that.
A quote from him: "With a face like this, there aren't a lot of lawyers or priest roles coming my way. I've got a face that was meant for a mugshot, and that's what I've been doing for the past 30 years. If I play a cop, it's always a racist cop, or a trigger-happy cop, or a crooked cop. But by and large, I play cowboys, bikers, and convicts."
Hell yeah,
a character actor through and through.
I like that he was like, I know what my face looks like.
Yeah. I don't look honest. I was like, oh, great.
That's Gregory Norman Cruz as Diego Garza. Has done a bunch of stage work in Denver and LA, and a lot of TV and voice work as well. Small roles in Scarface, Starman, again, an episode of Cop Rock, 3 episodes of Dr. Quinn, Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, the 2008 Turok video game where he plays Turok the Dinosaur Hunter, 44 episodes of Saving Grace as Bobby Stillwater, Ben in Velvet Buzzsaw, which was an interesting idea that didn't stick the landing, El Payo on Mayans, Abraham Brown on the Dexter Restart, and most recently on Stillwater. That brings us to Casey Briggs as Mr. Soxa. I don't know if he's ever mentioned by name, but he's that other white guy who wears the...
He's the boss of the oil rig.
The boss of the oil rig, yeah. He was Novacek on Broken Arrow, Eric East in The Pelican Brief. You've also maybe seen him on Ryan's Hope, Murder, She Wrote, Legacy, 3 episodes of General Hospital, and most recently, the Rookie TV series. Oh, and also, that's Damar from Deep Space Nine. 23 episodes as Dolichot's second in command before becoming leader of the Cardassian Union himself. That's Goldemar. Looks totally different without the makeup. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, like...
Yeah, it's hard.
Specifically Cardassian makeup, too. It's like, it's kind of hard to know unless you know.
Yeah. He's also
man.
an Illyrian captain on a Season 9, Episode 19 episode of Enterprise, Damage. So, like, does a lot of Trek, too. Yeah. That brings us to Miguel Sandoval as Martin Ortega, the lawyer for the oil company. He's also a huge character actor.
He's got one of those faces,
Yep.
too.
He's a favorite of director Alex Cox. Credits start in 82 and include Repo Man, DEA, Clear and Present Danger, Jurassic Park, Get Shorty, The Pretender, The Crew, does voice work on Jackie Chan Adventures and the Boondocks.
Which is a great cartoon.
Yeah. Carlos on Entourage, 130 episodes of Medium as D.A. Develos, so he's like Medium lady's boss in that. Judge Hernandez on Bad Judge, Pruitt Herrera on 44 episodes of Station 19, recently Fernando on Barry, and also on the show The Diplomat. Began working as a professional actor in 1975 when he joined a mime school in Albuquerque, New Mexico, working with a bunch of famous mime coaches there, and also met his wife, who was his teacher in mime school.
That rolls.
And also, during his career, he founded an acting company of inmates in the New Mexico State Penitentiary, sometimes training 2 times a week for 1 year. The company eventually presented productions of Beckett's Waiting for Godot and Endgame for an inmate population and the general public. So fucking cool.
Just pressing works to do for an inmate population. Holy shit.
Yeah, but like evocative of their struggles.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
Speaking of prison, my brain is stuck on soaking. I'm done.
Well, I forgot about that. And now I haven't. Now it's time for our overall thoughts.
Well, I'm sorry, Agent Doug is gone fishing. Can I take a message, please?
Mulder?
These episodes fit the theme because it was Baby
doing the thing.
Hardcore
Baby doing the thing. Funny, too, because I feel like it was in ways I would not have anticipated. Like, if you had told me you were picking a Kirk Baby does the thing, I would have been like, oh, he's going to either explode a computer or do some sex magic, which, like, ultimately he does, but
the thing is that, like, meme of, like, don't do it, I'ma do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, specifically, don't do it, I'ma do it.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, I thought that worked very well. And then, obviously, in comparison with Mulder being like, I'm not on the X-Files, just kidding, I'm in the ocean.
LOL, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did it. Nailed it.
Yeah, these ones went together very well. They both hit the theme. We did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, the episodes themselves don't have, like, a lot of parallels other than, like, you know.
Baby does the thing.
Baby does the thing.
Yeah.
As a fan, how would you say this episode holds up compared to others?
Fine, I guess.
I think it's, like I said before, relationship-wise, excellent. A+.
Yeah.
Plot-wise, season 3 strikes again.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's... I think a lot of great interpersonal stuff, and like you get to see most of the crew. It's not like you're really missing a ton. Like Chekhov's.
I don't think Chekhov or Sulu are there. Is Sulu there?
I thought Sulu was there. I thought
Chekhov's not there. Maybe Sulu's there like a little bit, but not.
Yeah, because Sulu's
the controls.
Yeah, the controls are all fucked up. So yeah, you get to see a lot of the cast. I feel like there's a lot of good like lighting and costume direction, which are like very typical of Trek. I felt like there are really interesting ideas in this, which is also very typical of Trek, that are just like executed not great in some ways. So I don't know. I thought it held up decently well. The back half is just so much stronger than the front half that it's like hard to compare them as one full episode.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. How would this hold up as an X-File?
Well, I think it like pretty much nails it. Like we said, like how you said earlier about how it harkens back to other things, and it's like, you know, Mulder's like Swan Song, and everybody's acting in character. There is moments of like levity and stuff, even though it's like a serious thing. They're talking about aliens, so I think it's, you know, it is an X-Files episode.
Yes,
very much through and through. What is the most Star Trek moment of the episode?
Oh, the hallway scene, obviously. Obviously, that's what it is.
100%.
Or McCoy just having a miracle potion is also very Trek.
The end.
The end.
The most X-Files moment is definitely Mulder picking up the phone and being like, hello. And Scully being like, Mulder? And he's like, your girl's here on the oil rig. And Scully being like, ugh, okay, fine. Anyways, here's the information.
I love that.
Or Kirsch being like, This stinks of Mulder.
When Mulder walks into the meeting and everyone just goes, oh, God.
Or like when Scully and Skinner are like talking and then Kirsch comes in and Kirsch is like, if I didn't know any better, I would say that this has Mulder written all over it. And they're both like, yeah, about that.
About that. Who are you shipping?
Skinner and Scully.
They're sitting really close to
But also, broship.
Yeah, broship. Friendship.
Yeah.
That's not a slash fic.
Yeah,
That's just a space fic.
It's a plus.
Oh, a
That's
plus,
how you
okay.
can tell. If it's like plus, then it's like friends. If it's slash, then it's fucking. It's a friendship ship, and then also, I know there's a dead body in here, but you want to fuck ship.
Lock the door.
I'll lock the door. Who are you shipping?
McKirk, obviously. Yeah. I feel like Bones fits in there, but it's not sexy.
Yeah.
He's just smart, which is sexy, but different. You know what I mean?
Also,
Again, that's why he's doing the jumping for the soaking. Like that's he's there. He's tangential.
The accelerator.
Yeah, he's the accelerator.
Is this episode a fuck, fine, or a flop? Yeah.
It's a fine plus, I think, because the first half is not as good as the second half. If
You could just find things. Don't have that point.
No, because I really liked the back half.
Yeah.
I don't want to take away from the fact that I did actually very much enjoy the back half of this episode. It was just the first half is fucking weird, and there's a lot of weird consent stuff. So.
Yeah, a lot of weird consent
Yeah,
stuff.
so I feel like fine plus actually fits it better than like a regular fine.
Okay.
I liked a lot of it. Her outfit, fine minus.
But like you liked it until you saw half of it. That's honestly when I was taking the notes, I was like, Erin's gonna like it. Or she's gonna hate it. She might like it. I don't know.
It was two really great ideas smushed together into a bad outfit. If it had been solid, waist up, open at the hip, would have looked awesome. If it had been totally solid skirt, open all the way to the hip or up to the ribs, would have looked fucking great. The two of them stitched together just looks like they couldn't decide what costume they wanted. The poofy sleeve with a gun in it, awesome. Of course I fucking want that. I have dresses like that. Of course I want to be like, if I had a weapon in here, I bet I could. Like,
But I could.
but I fucking could. So yeah, her costume was cool in theory, but because she's the queen, they were like, elevate it, take more off. And I'm like, did not work. I did not like it. Unfortunate. When I saw it waist up, I was like, oh, caftan. Oh, it's not gross. Ick. No, thank you. Is this a fuck, find, or a flop?
I think it's a fuck.
Yeah, okay. All right. I like
Right?
that. Yeah, no, I agree. It's just funny to be like, season 8, 18. What did you think? You're like, fuck, that's a fuck.
It's a fuck!
No, I agree with you. It's just funny. I think this is...
I'm not a grumpy X-Files person.
I was gonna
I'm an
say-
X-Files person who's here to have fun, but also hates the Frankenstein episode.
Yeah, and like, we have talked a lot about how the like... journey of the X-File is when you watch it in order, you feel a lot of different things, and like you are not experiencing that, and so you get a very like hodgepodge piecemeal
I'm
of
also
that.
invested enough to have a real opinion about this episode.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you've seen 56 episodes of the X-Files.
Well,
like,
and I've seen more because I've actually seen all of season 1 and all of season 2
That's
and like
true.
half of season 3.
yeah,
so I've
you've
seen
close
quite
to
a bit.
Yeah, you've seen not quite 100 episodes, but like close. You've seen a lot.
I feel like I've seen...
Because if you've seen all of season
I don't
1
wanna
and
do
2,
math.
that would be like
We're so close to the end.
43.
We're so close to the end.
Yeah, you've seen about 100 episodes.
Okay.
But yes, you have reason to be invested in it. It's not as
Thank
though
you.
you don't know
Thank you
any
for
of it.
allowing my fandom.
Well, yes, you allow me to be a fan of the Star Trek, so you know.
I forced you to be a fan of Star Trek.
Yeah,
that's slightly
true.
different.
That's fucking true.
I'm a reverse gatekeeper. You will like what I like, and you will like
Guess
it.
what? You came to my house. We're watching the thing I like.
Yeah, you've seen the episode of Supernatural where there are Twilight fans. I don't know. Fake left, fake no.
Go. You can find us on the internet. Follow us at NYD Productions on Instagram and interact with the show using the hashtag XTrexPod. You can find me at NYD Urgency on Instagram.
You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram at Stella Cheeks.
You can find me on Instagram as FistaRoboto83.
Not a joke.
Not a joke. That's the real one. And you can also subscribe to our new monthly newsletter at nydproductions.substack.com for updates on things like what we've been listening to, playing, reading, and podcasts and stuff we're releasing that month.
You can also email us at extrexpod@gmail.com with questions or comments. Want a fic where Kirk is being an a little annoying bitch, but Spock is still like, ugh, I love him, you know I got it.
And if you want more special behind-the-scenes action, like all of the stuff that we cut out of this episode, script notes, outtakes, extra podcasts like Unofficial Channel, and access to our Patreon-exclusive Discord, then you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/NYD Productions. We're back. If you've been gone for a while, come back and visit us, see what we're putting up there, where you can get access to all of that and more for only $1.
And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and to tell your friends. Again, that we're back and, all that stuff is good and we're around. Everything's great now. Anyway, we find that this nerdy shit is better when it's shared.
We'll see you next episode for Weird Diseases. In the meantime,
believe boldly.
Seek truth.
Ship proudly.
X-Trex is created and written by Stella Cheeks, Erin Cline, and Bobby Hoffman, and produced by Bobby Hoffman for NYD Productions. Our show theme is Alien Spy by Ionix, and our show art was made by Jonathan Curtis.